in Yangxin County, there once lived an elderly man who and his only son had built a small roadside inn where traveling merchants and cart drivers could rest for the night. On most nights, the inn was just large enough to hold those who arrived before sunset. But on one particular evening, fate arranged otherwise. 4 men appeared at the gate just as the last light faded from the sky. Their clothes were travel-worn, their faces drawn with fatigue. They asked politely for lodging, but the old man shook his head. Every room was full. Even the hallways held makeshift beds. The men exchanged glances. Turning back would mean walking through the countryside at night, where wolves and bandits were said to roam. They pleaded with the innkeeper, insisting they needed only a little space. If there is even a corner under your eaves or a place in your hall, they said, we will be grateful and ask for nothing more. The old man hesitated. He muttered to himself, torn between hospitality and unease. Finally, he remembered one place, a place he had not intended to offer to anyone. His son's wife had died only recently. Her body lay unburied, as the son had gone out to purchase a coffin and had not yet returned. The morning room was quiet, separated from the inn by a narrow passageway. The old man worried that the guests might object, but seeing no other option, he decided to risk it. He led the 4 men through the passage and into the morning quarters. Inside, a dim oil lamp flickered atop a table. A white curtain hung behind it, and beneath a paper coverlet lay the body of the deceased woman. Her face was concealed, her form still and silent. Next to the morning room was another chamber with a large bed. The old man showed them where they could sleep and said nothing more. The men were too weary to ask questions. They laid down at once, their travel packs at their sides. Before long, 3 of them were breathing deeply, their snores rising and falling in heavy rhythm. The 4th man, however, remained half awake. Perhaps it was the unfamiliar place, or perhaps some unease stirred in his heart. As he lay staring into the darkness, he suddenly heard a faint rustling sound, soft, like paper shifting. His eyes flew open. By the light of the oil lamp, he saw something that froze his blood. The woman's corpse had sat up. Slowly, stiffly, she tore aside the paper coverlet and rose from the bier. Her face was tinged yellow, her lips pale, and a narrow strip of silk was tied around her forehead. She moved with unnatural deliberation, stepping down from the platform and creeping toward the men. The traveler wanted to scream, but terror stole his voice. She bent low over the bed and exhaled deeply once, twice, 3 times, onto the faces of the 3 sleeping men. Her breath was faint, but deliberate, as though she were counting. The sleeper closest to her did not stir. When she turned toward him, the man panicked. He pulled the bedspread over his head and held his breath, his heart pounding so loudly he feared she might hear it. He felt her presence beside him. Then, just as with the others, she exhaled onto him before retreating. After a moment, the sound of paper rustling returned. The man dared to lift the edge of the bedspread. He saw the corpse lying stiff once more beneath the coverlet, as if nothing had happened. Sweat soaked his clothes. He nudged the others with his foot, but none of them moved. Their faces were slack, their breathing shallow and unnatural. He realized with horror that something terrible had already occurred. With no plan and no courage to remain, he resolved to flee. As soon as he sat up to grab his clothes, the rustling began again. Terrified, he dropped back down and hid once more. The corpse rose again, returned to him, and exhaled repeatedly before withdrawing. Only after the sound ceased did he dare move. He reached for his trousers, pulled them on hastily, and bolted for the door, barefoot and shaking. Behind him, the corpse rose in pursuit. He flung the door open and ran into the night, screaming as he fled through the village. Yet not a single door opened. Not a single light appeared. The entire village lay silent, as if dead. He considered pounding on the innkeeper's door, but fear drove him onward. He raced down the road, leading away from the village, lungs burning, legs trembling. East of town, he spotted a monastery. From within, he heard the steady rhythm of a wooden fish marking the monks' night prayers. Hope surged through him. He rushed to the gate and pounded desperately. The monks, startled by the noise, hesitated. They did not open the gate at once. Behind the man, the corpse drew closer, so close that he felt its presence within a foot of his back. Outside the gate stood a massive white poplar, its trunk thick and pale. With no other option, the man ran around it. When the corpse moved left, he moved right. When it went right, he went left. Round and round they went, both growing slower with exhaustion. Finally, the corpse paused. The man crouched behind the tree, gasping. Suddenly, the corpse lunged forward, wrapping both arms around the trunk in an attempt to seize him. The man collapsed to the ground in terror. Unable to reach him, the corpse stiffened, frozen in place with its arms locked around the tree. After a long while, the monks opened the gate. They found the man unconscious, barely alive. They carried him inside and tended to him through the night. By morning, he revived enough to drink broth and recount his ordeal. At dawn, the monks examined the poplar and were astonished to find the corpse still clinging to it. They reported the matter to the county magistrate. The magistrate came in person. When his men tried to pry the corpse free, its arms would not budge. Upon closer inspection, they found that 4 fingers on each hand were curled like hooks, embedded deep into the wood. When they finally pulled them free, holes remained, as if carved by force. Messengers were sent to the inn. The old man, already in chaos over the disappearance of his daughter-in-law and the deaths of his guests, came to reclaim the body. The surviving traveler wept before the magistrate. 4 of us set out together, he said. Only I have returned. How can I face my village? Moved by his plight, the magistrate issued him official papers and gave him enough money to return home with honor. And so, the matter was closed. But the road near Cadian was never quite the same again.